So, with that being said, because a number of you kept asking, I'm having trouble kicking the leg out, it's because you're not trying to set up your inside trip. That's where we want to be trying to do this from, okay? One last one, but you're only going to get like a minute to try it. What if I go to the trip and I end up in this position and he steps inside? Boom. I can't kick his leg through the ceiling. I can't kick his leg out of the way now because it's in front. But what I could do is I could use my heel to wrap his foot. But my seat belt, I have to get rid of it. So I go palm up, limp arm, boom. Okay? And as we move, it gets a lot easier when I have a little bit of momentum. So boom, boom, he steps inside, trip, circle, boom. I showed this 2 years ago, I think it was. But I also like to do this from single. If you're one of those guys who goes swing single, and then you end up in seatbelt, this is that's another really easy way to get out of that seatbelt, like scramble or battle position. So we can do it here, boom, he fights inside. Or I might do it single. Okay? So let's try that. This is an outside trip. Okay, I'm not inside tripping. I'm outside hooking. And what, I know I went through this super fast. When I go over his leg, okay, my heel is really important. I try and scoop them with my heel. Then I go palm up, and I limp arm. And as soon as I add a little bit of a hop, he'll go right to his face. Guys ready to try that? I know, super different. If you feel kind of all tangled up, that's okay. Let's just make sure we get notes on detail. You go to cancer clinics, and you're learning from a lot of clinicians, if you can just take one thing away from each clinician, that's a huge success. And that's still a lot, because you guys got a lot of coaches up in front of you this week, right? If you came out of this week of camp, and at the end of the week, you mastered 2 things and they became a part of your wrestling, this week is a huge success, right? But if you come here and you try to remember all 50 moves you're gonna see, or 80 moves you're gonna see, you're gonna confuse them, you're not gonna master any of them, then we really don't get a lot out of the week, right? So details, details, details. Now, if we're wrestling, and I can't get to this 50-50 tie, I might be able to get to the same movement, but we're going to do it from front headlock. So Mason and I are out here wrestling, trail arm, club, cover, front headlock, okay? And this guy doesn't want to go down to his knees, so I'm trying to pull and he's staying strong. This is a great time inside trip. Watch what I'm going to do. I still do my circle pull, but now I'm doing it from front headlock. Front headlock, chin control, shoulder over the head on side action control. My free hand grabs his elbow. I never want to do this with my chin hand because I'm giving him a sucker drag. Boom. Okay? So we club, cover, circle pull. Watch what changes. When I circle pull and I know I'm going to trip, his head and his body is in my way right now. So as I get to this position, I'm going to take my chin hand and I throw his head like a softball under pitch, and I get rid of it. At the same time I circle and throw his head, I'm gonna bring that elbow all the way back around, and that's gonna be my inside trip elbow. So I go circle, pull, softball, pitch, trip, boom, into our inside trip, okay? Club, cover, circle, pull, circle, pull, circle, pull, pitch, chop, boom. Coach. Okay, so this time, as you go out there with your partner, your job is in front headlock. Be strong. You're that opponent that doesn't just go down to the knee. When I pull, he stays up. I pull, he stays up. Great, now I gotta get rid of him. When I soft pitch his head, softball pitch his head, make a full follow through with my arm. I throw it, my hand comes all the way back around. A lot of you are gonna do this, I call it chipmunk arm. You throw his head and stop, like you got tiny little arms, right? Boom, throw it, follow through, there's my chop. Look at my hips are close to his hips. I just have to penetrate to my knee, pow, boom, into that inside trip position again. So the finish is the exact same. I got to the finish that I wanted. My setup is a little bit different. Again, sometimes guys have trouble figuring out how to get to this position. So I'll give it to you the easiest way I figured it out. If I'm wrestling, I always want to protect lead leg. And when I am going to light him up, when I am going to club him, it comes from here, and I want to pow. I want him to feel my boom, boom. There's my club. I'm still protecting my leg. So now when I club, I feed it right into my hand. You might have heard other coaches say, feed it to a football catch, right? Like how I would hold a football in my stomach. I'm doing the same thing to this front headlock. Now I just take my club hand off and I find his elbow. In this position, I like to pull his elbow and try and cover his ear. I call that making him deaf. I don't want him to hear out of that ear, so I pull that elbow tight. Now I have good control of his chin, and I have good control of his elbow. And now I'm gonna start making him do the dance. He thinks I'm trying to pull him down, but I'm really just trying to measure that foot. And then when it's time to go, softball pitch his head to the wall, boom, boom, boom. To that winning position, okay? Guys, ready to try an inside trip from front headlock. Partner, remember, gotta stay up off your knees. If you start going down, we can't do this, okay? So partner, be strong and stay up off those knees. Let's try it on 3. Ready? 1, 2. From our underhook side, okay? So if we were out here wrestling and I circle and get him to step, I'm gonna trip. That's what we're gonna get to, okay? But we're gonna do a warm-up drill before we even get that started. So here's our warm-up drill. I'm on my knees, okay? Some of you have probably already done this before. This is called a yoke roll, but this warms me up for my inside trip. So I start on my knees. I'm as tall as I can be on my knees, right? I'm gonna stick my hips out, and I'm gonna turn my chin to my shoulder. Doesn't matter which side. I normally turn it, since I'm a right leg lead, I normally turn my chin to the left, but I don't think it really matters that much. When I go to roll, the first thing I'm gonna do is warm up. So I think of my knees to my chest as a rocking chair. And when I go forward, I want to touch my knees, my thighs, my hips, my belly, my chest, and then I'll roll back up to my knees. So it'll, at the beginning, it just looks like this. And notice that I arch my back, and you should see my feet go up before I roll back up to my knees. What? Okay? So that's the start of it, right? We're just like being like a rocking chair. rock forward, rock back, come up to our knees. If you get that, then what I want you to do is do a full rock, and you're going to use your hands just ever so slightly to help pop your feet up over your head. So I'm on my knees, I turn my chin, I roll, and I come up out of that yoke roll, okay? So I start on my knees, hips out. A lot of you are going to do this. You're going to be scared that you're falling forward. But if I turn my head and I really arch my hips, I never really thud to the mat. I should roll the whole time. There should be a point of my body in contact with the mat the whole time. So I turn my chin, arch, I roll, and then I come up out of it, okay? So that's gonna be our start. Because the room is so tight, be aware wherever you go to do this, be aware of who's around you so that you don't start to do your roll and somebody else is flopping on top of you. I trip, the way I do it's a little bit different than maybe like, did Vincenzo come in and show his inside trip? No, not yet? Or hasn't? Okay. Like Jared Frayer, Vincenzo, a couple of guys that are really good with inside trip. They do it from overhook side. Mine's different because I do it from underhook side, okay? So when we tie up, when my partner and I tie up, all we do is stand in front of each other, touch chest to chest, my lead leg side, so when I wrestle I'm like this, my lead leg side goes right on his belt line. My trail leg side just traps the overhook, or his elbow, or his tricep, okay? If we were in junior high, right, and we would go to a dance, we would start slow dancing like this, right? Okay? So I say that because part of me learning this is I need to direct him where I want him to go. I need his foot to go where I need it to go. So I'm kind of going to get a slow dance moving with my partner. I'm using my underhook or that belt line to get him to step and pull. And I'm not looking where that foot's landing, but every time I circle pull, I have a pretty good idea where that foot is landing. Now, if we get into a little bit of a wrestling stance, and I do the same thing, I put a little bit more pull on his belt line, and notice when I pull Coach's belt line, I kind of push with my shoulders, so now I stand him up a little bit. Circle pull, circle pull, circle pull, right? So I call that doing the dance. I want to lead my partner in doing the dance, and I'm trying to get a read of how far he stepped forward with that foot, okay? That's step one, I gotta make a step. Step two, when I know I'm gonna go for the trip, when I circle pull, I want to make the letter T with my hips to their hips, okay? So, circle pull, my hips are going this way, his hips are going that way, so we're making the letter T with our hips, okay? So that's two. One is to figure out where that foot's gonna be. Two is get really tight to his hips and make sure my letter T is connected. I don't want a line in a line. I want them to come together so that I make a T. Now I'm close to my opponent. Also notice I stood him up. I don't want to try and trip like this. I'm too far away, there's a big gap. So it's circle pull, there's my letter T, okay? Now, when we go to do our trip, that warm up that we did, that yoke roll, I'm going to try and do a yoke roll as I go to trip, but I've got to make sure that my knee is the first thing to hit. I can't step in and put a foot down. If I do, he steps right out of it. So if I go like this, everything's good, and then I step, he steps off of that foot. But if I put my knee down, it's almost hard to pause. So if I put my knee down, it's like he only has one place to go. If my knee is down and my foot is up, that's a big thing for him to have to step over. That's what I'm tripping him with, okay? Inside trip. He's tripping over that foot that's pointed up towards the ceiling. So, circle pull is 1, 2, make the letter T, 3, penetrate to my knee, 4, head, chest, knee, elbow, all goes to the same side. Whatever side I'm tripping, head, chest, knee, elbow is all going to the same side of his body. Circle pull, circle pull, circle pull, there's my T, there's my trip, boom. He's down, hopefully on his butt, maybe on his back. When we hit the mat, I want to take my hands, spread them wide, so I call it doing the airplane, right? I just take my hands and I get a really wide base. I take my shoulder, I put it in his heart or his sternum. I take my thighs and I make sure they're under his hamstrings. I want to be as tight underneath of his legs as I can be. So circle pull, that's number 1. Number 2, I make my T. 3, I penetrate to my knee. 4, head, chest, knee, elbow. Boom, they're all on the same side. Look how low I am on his body. I'm attacking his hips, his thigh, his ankle. When I drive into his butt or his back, I take my thighs and I put them under his hamstrings as I take my shoulder and I try to put it right into his heart. Okay? Now, if this all goes well, in freestyle, boom, how many points do I get? 4. In folk style, boom, I hit, referee starts counting, down to 1, 2, 3, 4. How many points did I just get? 7. That's a game changer. That's a match changer. Okay? So, when we go out, again, it's going to be really tight. I have to be a good partner and know where he's falling. I can't be tripping him into another group. So as I'm doing this, I'm aware of where coach is going to fall. Okay, I got to keep him safe. I don't want his head whacking into somebody else's head that's getting tripped. So 1, circle pull. Take as many circle pulls doing the dance as you need. 2, I get hip to hip. I make that letter T. 3, I penetrate to my knee. 4, head, chest, elbow, knee, all to the same side. Drive. Boom. Thighs under hamstrings. Shoulder into his heart. Partner, you're going to move. He fights off. I finish on top. Okay? We usually don't pin anybody in this move, but we do open the match up and score some big points. Okay? Any questions on that one? Remember, it's a 4-step process. 1, get them doing the dance, circle pull. 2, make the letter T, get hip to hip. 3, penetrate to your knee, not your foot. 4, head, chest, knee, elbow, all on the same side. Drive through your trip using our yoke roll motion. When they hit their butt or their chest, shoulder to their heart, thighs under hamstrings. I'm tripping, but I'm watching a lot of you go to trip. You don't want to change your head and chest over. You're staying in a 50-50. You pull, and then you go to trip in this situation. If he has any upper body experience at all, or feels comfortable throwing at all, if I try to trip like this, he just throws, and I go right to my back. There's not a lot I can do to stop it. When I take my head and chest over to the side I'm tripping, I have not only my hands, but I've got my body to post if he would try and throw me. But the thing is, you'll feel it. When your partner shifts to the side they're tripping, you don't feel like you can throw anymore. If he stays on the wrong side, opposite of where he's tripping, it's really easy to launch that guy. Okay? So that's one go. That's one go. The other thing is, to get your head and chest over, some of you are trying to go through his head. So your setup is good, and then when you go to trip, it looks really painful, like you're pushing through their head, trying to get to your trip. So here's what I want everybody to do. It's a really ugly dance move. You're just gonna take your hands, imagine their head and chest is here, you push them away, change your head and chest to the other side. Okay, so when I'm 50-50, I circle pull, I do this ugly dance move to get around their head and chest. I move my head and chest around his head and chest. I don't try to go through his head with my head. Okay? I've got to move my upper body around his. Okay? So that's 2. 1, I make sure I get out of the 50-50 tie. 2, I gotta make sure I go all the way around to the other side. Okay? 3, when we land, a lot of you are staying clamped onto your partner. You're not airplaning out. I maybe airplane for like half a second. When I know they're going down, I'm gonna spread my hands and make sure there's no chance of a roll through or him to be able to keep my momentum and literally roll me off. Okay? So if I kept my hands close to my opponent, when I trip, boom, I can still get rolled off. So, just take your hands wide and give yourself a base to stop. Now I can grab, right? But I need this to stop their momentum and their roll and their inertia when we hit the mat, right? I want to make sure they're on their butt, they're on their back. If we're in folk style, I want to make sure the referee's counting. I have to know when I go to trip, as soon as they start to fall, I got to start thinking back points. Okay? So, we're going to go back out. We're going to try it one more time. Number 1, head and chest has to go to the side you're tripping. 2, use that push away to change your head and chest so that you can get to the trip side. Once they start to fall, be ready to airplane your hands out and stop their momentum. Stop their rolling so you don't hit the mat and then get rolled over. Okay? We ready to try this? Let's do it on 3. Ready? 1, 2. I'm trying to circle pull, but I can't get those feet going. But this side, I feel like I'm in control. As I pull, I'm going to take my ear of my lead leg side, so it's going to the other side of his body, and I'm going to listen to him sweat. When I listen to him sweat, I have to change my feet. So I listen to him sweat, then I have to change my feet. Okay? I have to change my feet. But if I change my feet, I now have a wide open shot through my opponent or under my opponent. I like to think through my opponent because my target is actually like 3 feet behind the coach. So when I do this and he's not opening that trip up for me, I make sure I'm covering his ear, I put my ear into his armpit, then I change my feet. Boom. My target is way back there. Boom. Okay. So for this one, partner, you're going to be heavy-footed. That just means when I circle pull, you're not taking any more big steps. Okay? When that happens, offensive man, make sure you're pulling that elbow. I want to open up the window. Okay? I want to open up this window I'm going to shoot through. But I have to make sure my head is going through the hole. Some of you are going to do this. Your head's going to be up. Now you're trying to reach through their body. Unless you have really long arms, this is tough to get through. At least for me it is. But if I take my head and I listen to him sweat, now I can run. Boom. Okay? When we hit the mat, this time I'm not trying to base out. I'm trying to get my fingertips to touch that cradle position. And as I go, chest on chest. Like we all learned when we started learning how to wrestle, chest on chest. When I drive through, I don't want my momentum to take me through so I roll over top. I drive through so that I can find chest on chest. Okay? So we're wrestling. I club. I didn't find it. Boom, I club. I didn't find it. Boom, I found my front headlock. Now I pull. Now I pull. It's not coming enough for that trip. So I go elbow, ear into his armpit. And when I change my legs, I can go really far to that pinning combination. Okay? If your partner, when you shoot, fights hard to belly out, just take your takedown. I'm not even going to show it. But if I penetrate through and they belly down, that's fine. Just attack the leg, take your takedown. Which was 50-50, pull the belt line, okay? We're doing the dance that way. Sometimes when I go here, I might not be able to get to my trip, but I'll end up with a seat belt, okay? I end up almost hitting the hip, okay? And I can't trip through. But watch what does open up. If I end up with this seatbelt position, my hips super close to their hips, my inside leg, it's going to do two things. One, it kicks the ceiling, so I go bang, okay? Two, it's going to catch his near ankle. So I go boom, lay out of the way, catch, drive. Okay? This is for the guy that I pull, and when I get really close, I don't end up in that trip position. I just end up almost with a seatbelt. Okay? Here, so my inside leg really close to his leg. When I go to kick, I kick my heel to the ceiling, and I'm trying to kick his knee, not his foot, not his calf. I try and kick his knee up, bang, trip, drive. Okay? This is one of these things you got to do over and over and over and over in practice before you really commit to it in a match. What most people will get in trouble with is they're too far away, so they get to this position, but look at all this space. And then they try and go like this. They really don't move his feet. Then they're overextended on the trip. Okay, and there's a lot of bad things that can happen when I'm this extended. But if I'm really close to his hips, here, seatbelt position, kick, catch. Okay? Some people ask, are you trying to ankle pick? I'm not so much ankle pick as much as I am getting my hand on the ankle, then driving my chest over my opponent's chest. So the action's really about me, just like the last one, driving through. I'm not really trying to pick his ankle up. His ankle's very heavy. But as soon as I start moving through them, my hand will be able to elevate that foot. And I'm just trying to elevate that foot because I don't want their foot on the mat to be able to roll through, bridge through, fight back. Basic rule of wrestling, if their foot's off the mat, they can't sprawl. Really hard to scramble if I'm keeping their feet off of the mat. We need our feet on our mat so that we can drive and do all those sort of things. 50-50, circle pull. I can't trip, but I ended up with a seatbelt. Kick, catch, drive. Okay? You guys ready on that one? Make sure you kick the knee high towards the ceiling, and then you're just stepping to to that far angle and driving over top. On three, ready, 1, 2.